talking to Dr. Gregory McMahon, again, who is a urologist. We'll get into where and all those kind of things in a second, as well as Lamont Walker, who is a patient of Dr. McMahon's, and he is a prostate cancer survivor. I have a friend who's a survivor as well, and men don't even get checked. Black men, I need you to wake up and get it together, okay? Because I already told you, 1 in 8 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer, and black men are about 70% more likely to be diagnosed with prostate cancer than white men, and more than twice as likely to die from this disease. So it's real. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Dr. Gregory McMahon and Lamont Walker. Hey, gentlemen, how are you this morning?
Great. Good morning.
Good morning.
Great. Thank you for having us.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. I really do. Um, so yeah, I was telling everyone earlier when I first got on this morning about the importance, of men overall, especially black men, yes, but men overall getting screened for prostate cancer, and why, and again, just what I read earlier. I read it again as far as the 1 in 8 men who will be diagnosed. But you guys, let me back up for a second to my listeners. So Dr. Gregory McMahon is a urologist. He is a part of Midlantic Urology medical team. He specializes in treating cancers uh, of the. Now I don't even know how to pronounce that word. I'm not even going to try. The gender. What is it?
Genital urinary, pretty much the organs that make pee and provide sexual function in men.
Okay, because it says genitourinary.
GU, we like
Is that
GU.
it?
GU is good. We can use the term
Sweet.
GU.
Okay, GU. I like GU track, and is skilled in both robotic and open surgery as well as ablative technologies for prostate cancer. And his practice focuses on treating complex malignancies such as prostate, kidney, bladder, adrenal, testes, and penile cancer. He's also well versed in treating benign conditions such as ure- ureteral strictures and benign prostatic hyperplasia. He takes pride in providing every patient and their families with exceptional care and support. And Lamont, he's a survivor, and now he's a passionate advocate for Black men over 40. He was diagnosed in 2022. He's going to tell us a little bit about that. And yeah, he met with Dr. McMahon to talk about his treatment options. And I'm going to let him tell you what he chose and why he chose that. And now he feels like he's been given a second chance. So again, I'm going to let him get into those things for you guys. I'm not going to tell you the story. So, Dr. McMahon, what I want to know is why is prostate cancer screening so important for men over 40, and why are Black men considered high risk, at a higher risk rather?
Yeah, so great question. And again, first and foremost, thank you for having me on the show. I'm so happy to be here and support Lamont and everything that he's doing. You know, there's only so much that we can do as a medical community. To have Lamont out there really advocating for us and this population is really huge. So really hats off to him and everything that he's doing. When it comes to prostate cancer, it's important to understand that it really is the most common type of cancer that men worldwide will face. And you said it exactly, about one in every 8 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer in their lifetime. Now that shifts a little bit to about 1 in 7 for Black or African American men. And the reasons for that is really multifactorial. One is healthcare access, trust in the healthcare system, and then also possibly some genetic factors that also put them at higher risk as well. A little bit more to come on that as some data matures. But getting back to screening, like the best way of prevention is screening and finding things early. And how we do that for prostate cancer is getting blood work, or PSA test is really our entry point. Sometimes along with that, we'll do a digital rectal exam in the office, and that's as straightforward as it sounds. We're placing our finger into the rectum to feel the prostate. The two geographically are adjacent to each other, so we can get a better understanding of how things are. But
Mm-hmm.
again, the entry point, probably mostly done in your primary care office, is going to be a blood test, a PSA, prostate specific antigen. And we're going to, one, compare that against age-related norms for people in your age group. But then probably more importantly is track that value over time for you as an individual. And if we see an abrupt rise or a change over time, that could be the signal that there's something going on that needs to be looked further into, such as prostate cancer, and we would probably do a prostate biopsy for that. And just as with any type of cancers, the big point to get across is when should we start screening? And
Right.
again, I'm just going to reiterate what's already been said a couple times on the radio show today, is for all comers, really we should start screening around the ages of 45 to 50, getting into our doctor's office and requesting that the PSA be done. But for those at-risk patients, and that's going to be Black or African American patients, patients with a strong family history, someone that's had metastatic prostate cancer or has died from prostate cancer, or has a strong family history or documented genetic mutations, those are the patients that we're going to want to start earlier, either at the age of 40 or 10 years before that relative in their family was diagnosed with the disease.
Okay. Because I was going to ask that too. I know my youngest son is 23, and his father had cancer as a child, and then it came back in his 40s, and it came back in his colon. So obviously my 23-year-old starts to panic. He's very, very thin, very thin kid. And my stomach's bloated. My stomach's hurts. It hurts. He's like freaking out. And fortunately though, I found a doctor. I was like, look, my son is, I took him to our general practitioner, and I was like, he's not going to calm down until I can get this kid a colonoscopy. He's not going to calm down. He's like, that's how they found it with my dad. He's just freaked. I said, I need someone who's going to do this at 22, because he was 22 at the time. I was like, he's going to drive us crazy. Unfortunately, we had it done. So I was going to ask you why, and this is with a lot of cancers, why is the specific age 40? Unless you had it in your family. What makes it 40? Why not 30? What makes it 40?
Yeah, so a really good question, and that really comes from all studies that have been done for prostate cancer. So all cancers are treated differently, right? And you're going back and you're looking at really population level data to try to understand what the peak incidence of the age is. So let's take GU, or genital urinary cancer specifically.
Okay.
So if we look at prostate cancer, we know that the peak incidence, or when most patients are going to get prostate cancer, is going to be in their 5th or 6th decade of life, so their 50s or their 60s. But for testicular cancer, we know that the peak incidence is in their 20s or their 30s, right? So those two cancers are very different. So we screen those populations accordingly. Testicular cancer isn't something that we necessarily actively screen for, but we're teaching young men maybe, once a month in the shower, make sure you're feeling down there. If you feel any lumps, you want to get into the office to get it evaluated. But getting back for today's mission, talking about prostate cancer, when we look at that population level data, we know the peak incidences are in their 5th and 6th decade of life. And also there have been some studies looking at screening men earlier, don't really have any benefit. We're not finding disease earlier, except for those variables that we mentioned. Again, African-American, Black patients with a family history of genetic mutations, or a family history where they've had fathers, uncles had metastatic prostate cancer or died of the disease. Those are the ones that we know that we want to start screening earlier.
Okay. I'm always meant to ask a doctor that question, like, why did we wait so long? Why do we wait so long? So I also wanted to know, what are some of the common misconceptions about prostate cancer and its screening?
Yeah, so I think there's been a lot of confusion that's probably on us as a medical community a little bit. So if you go back even within the last 10 to 15 years, I think when PSAs, like back in the 1990s, is when the PSAs really became popular. Mm-hmm. We were probably over screening and over diagnosing the disease. And then there was kind of this heavy-handed autocorrection where the United States Preventative Task Force really said we shouldn't be screening men for prostate cancer with PSAs. And then we saw the shift where we were diagnosing more advanced disease, which obviously is not what we wanted. And since then, that's kind of been walked back to where there's a statement now that it's really a shared decision-making process between the male and the patient and their physician to talk about the screening process, what's involved in it. And as a urologist, our kind of perception on this is a little bit tainted because we're typically not the ones doing the initial screening. That's going to be done more in the primary care setting. patients are coming to see us once their PSA is already elevated, and then we're going to take that work up a little bit further, where maybe we're repeating the PSA, ordering some imaging, and then even maybe doing a prostate biopsy. And then if I can, just to take this process one step further, if we do proceed with a prostate biopsy, it's important to understand that not all prostate cancers are created equally. So what do I mean by that? When someone's diagnosed with prostate cancer, really the most important step, in my opinion, to do is to appropriately risk stratify that patient. So when you have prostate cancer, you can have low, intermediate, or high risk, and those groups even break down further. But for most men, they're going to be diagnosed with a type of prostate cancer that may not necessarily require treatment. It's something that we could potentially watch, because we know for men that have low risk prostate cancer, the chances of that taking them from this world or leading to their death is really low. But in the same breath, it's important to understand that men that have high risk prostate cancer, those are the men that could potentially die from the disease. So we want to find those patients and offer them treatment up front, and not only offer them treatment up front, but make sure that we're following them over their lifetime, because there's a really high chance that disease will come back, upwards of 50% in the original studies, that disease will come back. And that's okay, because we have a lot of new treatments that we can subsequently layer on to really prolong life, and not only prolong life, but increase quality of life as well, or maintain quality of life is probably a better way to put it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I think, like I said, I'm with you on it. It's about the 90s when it was, prostate cancer, you know what I mean? And I've always felt like there's just this stigma with men to, get tested for this, whether it's in their family or not. You know what I mean? They just don't tend to do it. And they just need to talk about it more. I think once they get more comfortable with the conversation, we'll get more men that get tested, especially Black men, especially with people in their health history, and we'll be able to save a lot more lives once men are able to just open up and get comfortable with the conversation.
Absolutely. And if you look at the data that we've been saying, right? So 1 in 8 or 1 in 7, right? So if anyone listening to this show, if they go ask 8 of their buddies or 7 of their buddies, they're going to know someone that has prostate cancer. Again, it's the most common diagnosis that we deal with as men. And so I think just opening up about it and talking about it is huge. And it's one thing for me as a physician to talk to patients about it, but then to be able to talk to someone like Lamont that's not only kind of gone through that diagnostic standpoint, but also undergone treatment, he can talk to them at a different level. He can offer them empathy that I just can't, because I haven't gone through that personal process.
Right. Lamont, I'm gonna get to you after the commercial break. But right before we take this break, Dr. McMahon, a Midday break room. And if you're just tuning in, we are talking to Dr. Gregory McMahon, and he is a urologist, and we're talking to one of his patients, excuse me, Lamont Walker, who is a prostate cancer survivor and now an advocate for Black men over 40. So Lamont, I need you to share your personal journey with prostate cancer. I want to know what led you to get screened, and again, how did early detection impact your outcome?
Well, thank you, Roxy, for having us on the show. And early detection was a big part of it. Back in 2020, it was pretty complicated. I was always getting tested because that's, I always like to know what's going on with me. But after 2020, with COVID, getting back into the doctor office, it took like 2 years to get tested. Then all of a sudden, my PSA went from a 3.3 to a 4.44 in July of 2022. And I said, wow, I couldn't believe that. So I got it again the next month, and it started climbing again for 4.9. So I decided to advocate for myself and just ask questions. And then I got an MRI and received a Gleason score. A Pirate score of 5. I think it's from 2 to 5. They only go up to 5, and I had the highest.
Wow.
So then I received a biopsy, and my Gleason score showed a 7, 8, a 7 and an 8. So it was kind of pretty aggressive by the time I got back into the doctors and getting things rolling again. But I did my research and I found Dr. McMahon, and which rest is history right now. I won't get prostate cancer again. You never know the future of things coming back. But I right now I have maintain a quality life. I've been married for 41 years, coming up on 41 years, and life is good. So that's my mission to keep on sharing the word. So I'm open for anything. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's crazy because, like we discussed earlier, that's not even something that, men are like, okay, you know what? Let me make sure I get this checked out all the time. You know what I mean? Again, it's like probably the least thing that they want to get checked out, and one of our listeners commented a little while ago as far as there shouldn't be any reason for men to be dying from prostate cancer in 2025 if you screen early. It really shouldn't be any reason,
Right.
and because of the stigma with the prostate cancer exam and just men being men, sorry, but it's real, they don't want to do it, and it's something that is so, in my opinion, again, I'm just making assumptions for what us women go through with our own stuff. Get this exam, and it could basically just save your life. And like you said, and you can live a happy, productive rest of your life. Like what else would you want? To die from something that can basically be taken care of? I mean, like I said, I have a friend rather who had it as well, and he chose to get his prostate removed, and he lives an amazing life. So I just feel like, men, this is something that you got to do. You got to get that stigma out of your head, and check on it, and get yourself together. And like Lamont said, it's something that I need to know what my body's going to. So you were just like, I need to know everything about my body. Check this,
Yes.
this, and this to make sure I am good.
And what's so weird about it? I'm sorry. What's so weird about it is that when I received the prostatectomy, the removal of the prostate, and then I started talking to my friends. I would go around and say, "So, what's your PSA level?" Just messing with them, and they say, "What's that?" And they are and not to blame anyone for that,
Right.
but a lot of men do not know what prostate-specific antigen is, or it's a simple blood test. Back in you could still do you still do the other exam, the more physical exam, but right now you can do a blood test.
Right.
It's a simple blood test. So that's my mission. I've been working, mentoring with cancer network groups, speaking at churches and so forth. Yeah.
That's good. I like that. And so now I realize that sign in the background. If you're watching via Facebook Live, Lamont has a sign in the background of the studio, and it's just the only sign there. It says, "What's your PSA level?"
What's your PSA level?
So yeah, and again, like you said, it's a conversation that you had with your friends.
Get it started.
To let them know, like, hey, look, get it started and go get checked out. Like you said, it's not it's my line that I always say, it's not that deep. It's not that deep. Get it checked out so it's not deep. Seriously.
I am working on a podcast. I have a website called what'syourpsalevel.com.
Nice.
And I have about 3 little things there, but I'm really going to get deeply involved, more thorough into it. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. And also,
yep, you guys, you heard that. That's what we're going to need you to do. And Lamont, before I let the both of you go, what message would you give to men, again, especially Black men, especially in the Black community, rather, who may feel hesitant or fearful about getting screened?
Well, this is what I can say. If you are experiencing certain types of symptoms like difficulty starting urination, weak or interrupted flow of urine, urinating often, especially at night, trouble emptying your bladder completely, that was mine, pain or burning during urination, blood in the urine or semen, pain in the back or pelvis that doesn't go away, and painful ejaculation. If you're experiencing that, men, if you're listening, go to the doctor. See your doctor or visit Midlantic Urology.